Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around, you guys. I know it's getting late in the day. So to make things a little bit better for you guys, we're going to reward a few of you for sticking around. We have, while we do our intros, you can try and scan that. Hopefully it works with your phones. Should work. We've done this before. And just fill out this quick poll that we have. It's just a 2-question poll, just a couple of fun questions for you to answer. And then put your name or a nickname in there that can identify you in case you're randomly selected as the winner. We've got a pair of closed branded Bose Quiet Comfort headphones. And then we've got a couple other Anker chargers, like phone chargers. And while you're filling that out, my name's Andrew Peterson. This is my business partner, Spencer Dent. We're the founders of a company called Closed. We specialize in win-loss analysis, both services and software for win-loss analysis. We've been fortunate to work with a lot of great companies out here in the Bay Area, companies like Salesforce and Tableau and Twilio and dozens of others. So the session today that we're going to be presenting on is 8 tips for effective win-loss analysis. Let's see if I can go back. And my partner here, Spencer Dent, he and I met while we were at a company called Qualtrics, based out of Utah. Closed is also based out of Utah. And we overlapped there for about 4 years and were involved in implementing win-loss analysis at Qualtrics, and then became very passionate about it and wanted to start a business that focused on delivering services and software for win-loss. So today's session is a lot more about methodology and tips for how you can run a win-loss analysis program. It's not really about Closed too much, so we'll kind of dive into this. But as you complete the poll, are you guys, those of you who have filled it out, are you able to see the results from the poll? It should take you to a results page where you can see it. Is that working? Good. What does it look like? Someone refresh and give us an update on, do we have more Oakland A's fans or more San Francisco Giants fans? Go Giants? Yeah. What's the breakdown?
9 Oakland A's.
15-9. All right.
Neither is 11.
Neither is winning? Neither? Okay. All right. Neither's beating the A's. Cool. And then there's a fun question in there about win-loss analysis. And so someone want to give us an update on those answers? Yeah. So the first one's like, wait, what the heck is win-loss analysis? All right. The first 2 are tied. How many we got for that first one? All right, 13 and 13. And do we have any experts? Do we have anyone that said our program's great? That fourth one? We got one. Yeah. All right. Is that Alyssa? All right. Good job, Alyssa. All right. And then what do we got for the third option? I think we could be doing better. We've got something, but we could be doing something better. What do we got there? 18. Is that the winning one?
The second option is going up fast.
All right. I'm not too surprised by that. There's a study by Pragmatic Marketing where they found that only about 20% of companies practice formal win-loss analysis. So hopefully we can help you guys out and get you on the road to implementing effective win-loss analysis programs at your organizations. So I'm going to pull my phone out here and we're going to see who won these prizes real quick. So just bear with me for 1 second.
I'll be the runner.
Sometimes we get funny names in here for nicknames. All right, it's coming up. All right, the first winner for the headphones, Elizabeth Brigham. Congrats. All right, and then for the 2 chargers, we've got Micah Merrick, I don't know how to say that. Merrick. All right. It's hard to see if you're up high. Shout out, yell to us. And then the third winner is Julia Dillon. All right, well, he's giving those out. We'll get this show on the road. So what is win-loss analysis? So some of you answered, wait, what is it? So just as a quick answer to that, win-loss analysis is the practice of systematically capturing and analyzing the reasons why you win and lose sales opportunities. And this has a lot of implications for your organization. Rigorous win-loss analysis can help you confirm and prioritize the strengths and weaknesses of your product offering, which will allow you to improve product strategy, increase marketing effectiveness. It'll help you boost sales effectiveness, improve sales enablement, and just establish org-wide strategic alignment about why you're winning and losing deals. Because winning and losing, why you win and lose, having that insight, that information is valuable to so many parts of an organization. It's valuable to the marketing organization, it's valuable to the product organization, it's valuable to the sales organization, and of course, it's valuable to the C-suite and the executive team. And what we find at Closed is that a lot of times, product marketing is the right place for owning win-loss analysis, because a product marketer sits at the cross-section of all of these things. They sit at the cross-section of product strategy and sales enablement and marketing effectiveness, and so it's a great place to operate win-loss analysis within an organization. So let's jump into this. We'll go through this real quick. We don't have tons of time. We've got about 20 more minutes, so we'll kind of fly through this. Spencer, you take that one.
So the first thing here is making sure you understand what's at stake and making sure your organization understands what's at stake. Understanding why you win and lose. Think about how much inefficiency exists in your go-to-market motion. The amount of time reps are spending on deals they shouldn't be spending on, the amount of effort and resources that goes into sell and then losing. It's especially in SaaS businesses. I know there's a lot of SaaS folks here. The cost of your go-to-market is enormous. And so it's all about tuning that. So when you think about this, what happens today, and it used to make me sick to sit in a room with a bunch of executives and watch everybody pull on the one anecdote that proves their case over and over. Who's ever had to deal with that? Remember that deal that we lost 9 months ago? Well, we need to fix that. And I'm just literally pushing the spotlight away from me because I don't want to own up to what's happening with me, right? So anecdotes, not only do they kill your efficiency, they actually end up being relied upon, and they create tons of pain in your organization and political nonsense because you're not focused on actually what's happening. So when you know what's at stake, there's so much you can do to improve it. Todd Berkowitz at Gartner says, if you take a more comprehensive approach, some companies have seen up to a 50% improvement in their win rates. Really understanding why you win and lose will make it so that your products get developed more efficiently. You build the right stuff. So your marketing messages are tuned more effectively. So you reach the right audience and hit them with what really matters to them. So your sales team goes to market more efficiently and they increase their win rates. So there's a lot of dollars at stake here. Everybody's obsessed with the idea of CX and customer feedback and things like that. In B2B environments, the most important place to collect CX feedback is when somebody votes with their wallet. That's what matters. So
to go along with that, if you're going to implement win-loss analysis in your organization, you need to secure executive sponsorship. That's a critical first step in making your program successful. We talk to a lot of product marketers who capture the vision of win-loss analysis. They get this. They acknowledge what's at stake. They realize their organization needs a better way to understand and capture why they're winning and losing sales opportunities. But then they have to go around the organization and get people bought in. Because as we'll talk about later, if you implement it properly, it's not cheap. And so you need that executive level sponsorship so that not only do you have the budget to pay for a program, but you have executives who are ready to listen to the feedback, engage with the feedback, and go make change in the organization. And so best in class win-loss programs have strong executive sponsorship and strong buy-in from several functions, and there's coordination happening across functions. And again, it's another reason why product marketers are great advocates and great leaders of win-loss analysis in the organization, because they have the ability to go and engage the sales organization, the product team, and the marketing org, and the executive team, and bring everyone together and develop a cohesive strategy. So we would just suggest that you, as you're thinking about win-loss, as you're implementing a win-loss analysis program, engage leaders from the different functions. Sometimes you might need to pool budgets from different functions as well. We've seen that in a lot of companies we've worked with, where after each function starts to see how that's going to benefit them, they're willing to contribute budget, and overall they're able to pool that budget together to fund a program. And then, of course, take into account the needs and the questions that each different function has. Sales may have different questions or be curious about different things than the product organization or the executive team. And so you need everybody's input to make sure you build a strong, cohesive program.
And then you just get started, right? So one last thing I'll say about getting cross-functional engagement. Everybody thinks it's a lot of times a product team will go and start doing win-loss interviews, or a product marketing team will do it, or a sales team will be doing it. And I can't tell you we've done thousands of interviews at Closed, and I can't tell you the number of times where, I chose not to go with X company because of product. Sometimes it's because of the sales experience. Sometimes it's because of the pricing, and a lot of times it's because of multiple things. When you approach win-loss comprehensively from the customer's view, you get better feedback versus being isolated and focusing too much on any one function. Then you just get started. One of the biggest mistakes companies make is they feel like you have to fully bake this thing out, and I have to have a rigid list of questions, and I spend a bunch of time building out a Salesforce drop-down list for reps to fill out, and I have totally made this thing so complex that it's almost impossible to fill out. Or I've made my questionnaire so complex that it's almost impossible to administer through an interview. Ultimately, go talk to buyers. Why did you make the decision you made? Why was that important? Where did we fall down? What did we do well? What did we not do well? Doing that, you'll learn more by just getting started in your first few interviews, and then you can tune from there. This is more about iterating than it is about getting everything perfect up front. So the more you start right out of the gates, like Sanjay, one of our clients, did a webinar with us, and we asked him for his advice, and he said, just start the damn program. Just get going. And what you'll find, good win-loss starts with getting moving, and then as you learn about why you're winning and losing, you tune your program, and we'll talk more about that here in a second.
Hopefully my mic doesn't fall down. So as you go look to get started, there's different channels or sources you can look to for win-loss feedback. You can go to your sales team and get feedback from them, but I love this comment here from Bob Apollo. He used to be the SVP or the EVP of sales operations at a company called Sybase. He said, asking the sales organization to self-report on wins and losses is as insightful as asking turkeys whether they might be inclined to vote for Christmas. So nothing against salespeople. My background is in sales. But a self-aware salesperson is going to recognize that they don't know. They don't have all the answers to why a deal was won or lost. There's been studies that have been done where they've compared data provided by a sales organization with data provided by buyers, and sales reps are wrong or partially wrong 60% of the time. And so they're not the best source of feedback of why deals are won and lost, especially if they feel like it might have been their fault. They're not going to share that information willingly. And so the best source of information, the best source of win-loss insight is to go and actually talk with the decision makers, the buyers who evaluated your product or service. And so when you do that, there's two options. You can go and try and survey them, and we have backgrounds in survey research from our time at Qualtrics, or you can go engage them in a conversation. And what's fascinating is that in a B2B context, when people are making a complex business decision, a complex buying decision, they'll participate in a win-loss survey less than 5% of the time, but they'll participate in an interview between 25 to 40% of the time typically. And they'll spend about 2 minutes in a survey before dropping out. They'll spend 30 minutes or more on a phone call talking about their decision process. So you can't really compare the richness of the feedback between an actual conversation with the buyer and a survey response. And so ideally, you talk to every buyer that comes through your pipeline, but that can be prohibitive from a bandwidth standpoint or a cost standpoint. So that's where going back to the last slide, it's better to get started, focus on some key accounts, start in a small pocket or segment of the business, and then expand over time as you get buy-in, as the executives and other leaders start to see the value of the feedback. You can grow the program and expand it over time, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But also, it's helpful if you can leverage a neutral third party. This is a comment from senior product manager at Armor Cloud Security, where they first attempted to run a win-loss interview program internally, but then ultimately realized that the benefits of outsourcing outweighed the costs. And he said, win-loss analysis gives us quick, actionable insights into our product, sales process, pricing and packaging, and other critical elements of our business that we use to make strategic decisions. Because it's an external company doing the interviews, the results tend to be more objective than previous efforts to do this internally. The insights are also deeper than what we were previously able to get. Buyers just feel more comfortable talking with a neutral third party than they do speaking with an employee, even though it can work potentially to have a function like product marketing that's, distanced from sales, conduct these interviews. It can work, but it's ideal to have an objective, neutral, separate third party from another entity conducting these interviews so that they don't withhold any information. When it's an employee of the company, they have a tendency to overstate positives and understate the negatives. And so it can be interesting if you have the opportunity to compare the output of both and kind of see what the difference is.
The other thing that happens when you use a third party is it actually makes it easier for your organization to ingest the feedback. They don't say, well, yeah, of course the product team said the sales team sucks. Right? Of course the sales team says the product sucks, right? When you have a third party do it, you just kind of have to take it and ingest it as is, and it makes it easier to adopt. Tagging and tracking key themes. So you want to see why you win specific deals, but you also want to be able to stand back after you've interviewed or talked to buyers across deals and figure out why you're winning and see patterns. So what we suggest companies do is you want to have a methodology that allows you to do that. And what happens is, watch out. This is a bad practice that many product marketers are guilty of. They scribble notes while they do these types of interviews, and then they try to make sense. Then they don't get around to actually curating it. Then they try to make sense of it later, and it's kind of a wasted effort. You want to record and transcribe each interview. You want to actually have, here's what the buyer said. So you can actually go pull the quotes and the audio of what they said. You want to be able to tag both the positive and negative things. The biggest mistake that I see companies make all the time in win-loss when they're really, really immature is when we lose, I have a list of loss reasons, and when we win, I have a list of win reasons. Guess what? Nothing's ever that binary. When you win, guess what? You suck at some things too. And there's some reasons why you almost lost. And when you lose, you actually did well at some things. We find this across the interviews we do for our clients, that there are times where you did really, really well, but you lost because of one thing. And it's important to make sure you get that balanced view of what went well and didn't go well on a deal. Then making sure you have the quotes that support the themes, right? So it's not just, hey, I heard this and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that pricing was a problem. I'm actually going to say this is what the buyer said that drove me to say, here's why this was a theme. And then as you aggregate those over time, it allows you to see what's happening and to drill into certain pockets. So over time, you can say, hey, I think pricing and packaging is an issue for us, or hey, I think our product's lacking specific APIs. But then you can also drill in and say, against a certain competitor, what are the themes that come up? Against in a certain region or geography, are certain things coming up? So as you tag and track themes and pull additional metadata to help you make sense, because context matters with win-loss, it makes it so that your program's really rich and robust, and you can drill in and out of your business to see how you're doing.
And at Closed, we developed some technology that helps with this. It can be a little bit of a daunting task, and so we have some purpose-built technology that helps aggregate themes from across interviews and start to tell you that story of why you're winning and losing deals. The next thing is make sure you interpret the results you do get in context. As we talked about earlier, a lot of companies start small. They start focused on one pocket or area of the business. And you also might run the risk that one interview gets published that talks about a hot button issue, and now everybody in the org's running around trying to address that one thing, just like Spencer's example earlier with the executives and the anecdotes. The same thing might happen. And so you have to make sure that as the product marketer, as the program sponsor, that you make sure everybody is looking at these interviews in context of who has been interviewed, which pocket of our business have we been focusing on, and apply that context. And over time, as the sample of interviews grows, then you can start to drill down and look at themes and trends based on some of the metadata about these opportunities, like region or product or who the competitor was. And that starts to add new meaning to the program over time as the data set grows. And so don't make the mistake of extrapolating. Make sure people recognize, hey, we've just interviewed a small subset of deals, and this is the section of our business where we've focused. Then start exploring your themes by outcome. It's really interesting to step back eventually and look at what are the strengths for wins versus what are the weaknesses for losses. It's almost like, what's the story when we win and what's the story when we lose? And so dissecting the data in ways like that really adds some additional insight, and then drill down based on things like region, product, competitor, et cetera.
Then you want to get the information out to people. A mistake that you are going to make as a product marketing manager potentially is that you're going to want to get this information and hold it close to your chest and take the information and use it in PowerPoint decks that you're creating, and you want to be the source of truth, the single source of truth in your organization. You're not doing your company a service if you hold this, if you're getting this level of buyer feedback and holding it close to the chest. You want to get the information out. And because the more you get the information out, the more your company's able to act on it. And the more transparency you create there, the more you'll be able to react and adapt and adjust. I've seen clients that we've worked with make this mistake of they do everything else right, and they have a third party running everything for them, but then they just hold the information so tightly because they want to be viewed as the expert on win-loss in the organization, to the point where nobody actually knows what's coming out of the win-loss program. And so the more you can share the interviews as they come through with leadership, the more you can push that information to specific stakeholders, to the sales rep who was on the deal, to the sales leader, to product folks that were involved, where the feedback is about the specific features or product they're responsible for. The more you can, on a big deal that's really painful, let's get the right people in the room and actually talk about that deal, a win or a loss, the better off you're going to be. Okay.
We've also seen a tendency for organizations to be worried about sharing the feedback because of how it will be received by the sales organization. What if there's some information in an interview that isn't complimentary of a particular individual in the sales organization and how they handled a deal? So you have to be cognizant of your company culture, but the more transparent you can be, the better. And the clients of ours that just liberally share the insight and push the interview transcripts out and push access to the dashboard out and share the reports widely, the more success they have with their program and the more of an impact it has on the organization, versus those that try and hold it tightly and maybe curate it and be careful about what they're sharing with whom. And so this slide just has a few examples of ways that you can share the information liberally. I remember when we first implemented a program like this at Qualtrics and we hired an external vendor to do the interviews for us, they just sent us at the end of like a 6-month period a batch of like 30 interviews, like PDF transcripts, all in one big zip folder. And there wasn't a single executive that read a single interview transcript. Whereas if you engage these executives by dripping one by one as they get published in real time, they get an alert like, hey, this $200,000 deal with Marriott International, this loss was just published. Click here. If they're set up in the system and if they get these alerts, that's going to engage them. And as they're walking between meetings, they're going to pull that open and they're going to read what happened. They're going to kick off an email thread to people who might be able to address some of the issues that were brought up in that deal. And it's going to be viral. It's going to be impactful for the organization. The executives are going to be engaged. What are they going to want to do next? They're going to want to invest more in the program because they're going to say, wait, I want this same insight about these other deals. Are we doing win-loss interviews over here? And you'll say, well, we started small. We only had X dollars to spend on the program. But if you want us to, we can start doing more. And they'll say, yeah, of course. And that's what happened for us at Qualtrics. Was the minute the executive team started seeing the output of the interviews, they just had the appetite for more and more of them. So the last one here is calibrate and expand the program over time. So just like we're talking about, as you build momentum and as you start sharing the insights widely across the organization, it's going to drive an appetite across the org for more of this. And so over time, you can just make steady improvement and expand the scope of the program. You can continually tweak the questions that you're asking. You can cater them to the different pockets of the business or product lines that you're adding into the mix of the program. You can pay attention to how themes are changing over time, which is really, really insightful to see. There's nothing more exciting as a product marketer to see the feedback themes change for a pocket of the business where you drove change within the organization. One of our big business intelligence clients, they were getting constant complaints about their pricing model and how it didn't accommodate small to mid-sized businesses. And they finally used the output from the win-loss interviews to convince the higher-ups that change needed to happen with the pricing model. And it was fascinating to see, within 6 to 12 months of those changes going live, that negative theme totally disappeared from the feedback. And now you started to see other things creep up that could be addressed by the company. So pay attention to how themes change over time. You can monitor ROI metrics if you're cognizant of which areas of the business you're focusing on. You can pay attention to win rates in those areas of the business and see what happens there. And steadily expand. Start covering more and more of your pipeline over time as people get bought into this program and you're able to secure more budget and investment. So I think we're probably up here on time. Yeah, we are. So just some resources for you that can be helpful if you're thinking about implementing win-loss or want to kind of take the next step with your win-loss efforts at your organization. You can scan this and download a copy of Closed's win-loss guide. It has a lot more comprehensive information than what we went over today. We also have a blog where we publish blog posts regularly and some really helpful thought leadership about win-loss analysis that you can check out. Pragmatic Marketing and Gartner are both strong proponents of win-loss analysis and have some great content if you search the web for that. And we have a booth downstairs that you can come by, visit us, and we'd love to talk more about what you guys are doing and how we might be able to help. Thanks for sticking around, you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We have some handouts up here too. If you guys are interested, you can just come grab one, or if we need to bump out of here, we'll just stand out there and you can swing by and grab one. Thanks, everyone.